Hey everybody, happy Hanukkah. It must be Thursday at 8 because I am Spike Cohen and you are watching Culture of Winning, which is convenient that that's what just came up on the screen. This is Culture of Winning. If you haven't watched the show before, we talk with libertarians who have been elected across the country to talk about how they got elected and what they're going to do now that they're in office, and to try to work out a blueprint for how libertarians can get elected across the country. As I said, this is the Hanukkah episode, and so for night one of Hanukkah, we're going to interview this is our 9th episode, and so we're going to interview one of the libertarians who was elected to office in the last election. And so without further ado, I would like to introduce to you my next guest. She is the newest elected trustee of the Mancelona Township Michigan Board of Trustees. Her name is Donna Gundle-Krieg. Donna, thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you for having me.
I said that correctly, right? Mancelona Township?
You sure did. Yes.
Cool. All right, I nailed it first time. So folks, if you're watching this, be sure to share this. Be sure to share this so that libertarians that are in your friends list who might be thinking of running for office, or might be thinking of helping someone who's running for office, or might be thinking of talking someone out of running for office, can see how we can win together as libertarians. Now, Donna, again, it's so awesome to have you on the show. Anytime that I have someone on any of my shows who are libertarians, and this including this one, the first question I ask is, what is it that brought you to libertarianism and to the Libertarian Party? Was it kind of an aha moment, or was it more of a gradual evolution over time? Everyone has their story. Tell us the Donna Gundle-Krieg story.
Sure. I was pretty much a Republican most of my life, and I was sort of forced to homeschool my children when they were 2nd and 3rd grade. There was a public school issue that I broke. I was the journalist who sort of broke the story, and the public school was not accountable, and I was very shocked at everything that happened. So I disappeared into the homeschooling world over Christmas 20 years ago, and it was the best decision I ever made. It took me into an underground culture that I never knew existed. It was right after the laws had changed in Michigan to make homeschooling much more lenient. Okay. So there were lots of groups forming and that such. So I met a lot of like-minded people in the homeschooling world. Eventually found the Livingston County Party, which was downstate near Michigan, where I raised my family in the Detroit area. So I've been sort of evolved. It's pretty much an evolution.
So you actually got brought to libertarianism through homeschooling?
Pretty much so. I realized that there's a whole different world out here than what they're sort of telling us. And there were quite a few people in the homeschooling movement that were libertarian, whether they knew it or not. And started following the Homeschool Legal Defense Association, and the Mackinac Center for Public Policy, which is in Michigan. And they're libertarian leaning. So I'm not sure when I actually became libertarian. It was definitely a lot of different forces.
Gradual. It wasn't, you didn't have a moment where like your hair went into flames and you became a libertarian in that moment. It was more over time, like through your associations. That's interesting. And it's, it takes all kinds, but there are many people that the failing public school system is what, pushed them into at least libertarian thought, if not the party itself. So you've lived in Mancelona Township, or I guess in your area in Michigan, for quite some time. You're not a recent transplant, right?
No, I'm a recent transplant. I moved up to northern Michigan 8 years ago to start working sort of my final career in real estate. We had a second home up here. I'm in a resort area. Okay. And I lived most of my life in Metro Detroit.
Okay, so, but Michigan. So you've lived in Michigan all or most of your life. Okay, cool. So what was it that made you decide that first of all, was this your first run for Mancelona board?
I ran as a Republican 8 years ago, and I regretted it because I wasn't being true to myself. And I think after that election was probably the real aha moment that I needed to commit 100%. I had gone to meetings and done that type of thing, but I still thought I had a chance as a Republican. It just didn't work.
But see, this is what happened. You lost as a Republican, but then you won as a Libertarian. So what was it that made you to decide this time around that you wanted to run for the Mancelona Township Board?
Sure. We started a new affiliate up here for Northern Michigan, which previously has not had any affiliation. So I was political director, and I sort of wanted to show everybody else how it could be done, and researched my local race and saw that there was 2 seats in a 3-way race, and a Democrat and Republican were running. So they would have been automatically just on the board if I didn't throw my hat in. So I had to beat the Democrat. So, but I also own a real estate business, and everything that board does relates to me as a real estate broker and as a citizen.
Of course.
We're trying to rebuild downtown, the marijuana issue with retail, all the property rights issues with some of the timbering and oil companies that are up here and that type of thing. So you were fit.
So that's interesting. So your race is, I was reading about this. You ran in there were 2, like you said, there were 2 positions in a 3-way race. So this was at least a somewhat hard fought race because you had to beat one of the major party candidates to be able to actually win your race.
Yes, it's a very heavily Republican area, but just to give you an idea, the Republican straight ticket votes were more than me and the Democrat put together. So I knew I had to get both sides, and that was okay with me because I'm not going to be super controversial about Trump or masks or anything.
Right.
I feel I can relate. I'm a real estate broker. My signs are already over town. People already know me through my advertising.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, because you already have like home for sale things and open house things and everything. So people are used to that name.
Exactly. So I just thought maybe I had a chance, even though I was new, but I knew I had to work hard for it, and I really did. And I can talk about what I did later, but I thought it was a winnable race, and it turned out it was just by 100 votes.
Yeah, because it was somewhat close, and it was a race to beat the Democrat in the race. So you said you did a lot of things. What were the most challenging parts? And I guess you can say what was it that you did that you felt like were the the reasons why you won, and then I guess what was the most challenging part of doing all that?
Well, I'm a marketer by nature, and I'm a journalist, so I used my PR skills. I mean, I had some press today, and this is the kind of press I tried to get. It's Gundle-Krieg makes gains for the Libertarian Party with election victory. So
you sent me the picture of that. Yeah.
I write my own stories even while I'm running and send them out to the media. And if they have room, they will print them. So we had good luck getting a lot of our candidates some coverage. So I did the media. I did Facebook. I use Facebook advertising very heavily in my real estate business. So I'm really good at that. I had 100 signs that I put everywhere. That was challenging because in a small town, the signs get stolen. But what's funny about it is people post a picture of the person stealing the sign on Facebook, and everybody knows who they are. So
that's Bill. Bill, give the sign back. That's
yeah. So I actually got quite a bit of attention from my campaign once I realized who was stealing it. But the most important thing was door to door. I knew I had to do it. Yep. And I knocked on about the same number of doors that I got votes. And I'm sure it doesn't directly correlate because we live in a very rural area with lots of no trespassing signs. So about 3/4 of the way through my voter list, I mailed everybody who was left. I tried to touch them all either with a knock on the door and a door hanger or a mailing. So I really had 4 aggressive parts of my campain.
Then what was the what's the size of I'm not familiar, unfortunately I'm not familiar with Mancelona Township. Like what's this, like how many households, give or take, would you say are in there?
Well, that's a great question because that's really related to my biggest challenge with the door-to-door campaign and organizing the voter list.
Right.
Because we only had 4,000 voters on that list, but we only had 2,000 people vote. And I am in the county that is Trump's last hope our clerk made an error, and it was related to a Mancelona trustee. I thought it was me for 3 days, but they left a Mancelona village trustee off the ballot, which sparkled an international, if you've heard about the Antrim County Dominion software issue.
Yes. Yeah.
That is my county. So first,
Oh.
and I thought I was the one they left off the ballot. But anyway, to make a long story short, the voter lists in Michigan have tons of dead people on them. So I had 4,000 people, but some of the houses had 8 to 10 people in the house. And that's just the way the Michigan lists are, because you can't delete people.
Right.
Reasons. And so that was very challenging, trying to figure out who was where. And, just the challenges of going door to door and who's going to be on the other side. So I tried to end
when they answer the door, are you Steve? No. Are you Abigail? No. Okay. Are you Jonathan? Yeah. So it's an interesting thing. So about 2,000 households, but of which you didn't necessarily know who lived in them, but that there were roughly that many, and that there was a list of people that might live there.
Yes. So it was really, I thought I knew a lot more people than I did, because there's sort of 2 sections of town. There's a huge subdivision really pretty far from here. And so I was glad that I started there, because I didn't know anybody once I started hitting the 400 homes. So by the time it was over with, out of 2,000 people, there were 1,000 households, and I hit like maybe 600 of them, and then mailed the rest.
Wow.
So that was a lot of, probably 30 full days of knocking on doors.
And that got you all those things coupled together got you the votes that you needed. So you are an example, because we've had, if you've watched any of the episodes, we've had everything from people that fought tooth and nail to get their race, to people who intentionally picked a seat that no one else was running for, and was as quiet as possible so no one else would run against them, and just kind of walked their way through, and everything in between. You're an example of, you had a hard fought race, you had to do the hard work, go door to door and do the door knocking, because you're a real estate agent. And that's interesting. I never made that connection. My family, my mom owns a real estate company, and I never made that connection. Real estate agents are already doing what politicians are doing. You have to have your name out there. You have to have somewhat of a good reputation. You have to have name recognition. You have to have signs everywhere. And you kind of, and you have to be good at social media advertising. So you took all of the things you learned in your real estate company and applied it to your campaign. That's fascinating. And it worked.
It worked. And, in real estate, they teach us to, people need to know, love, and trust us.
Right.
And that's pretty much the same thing with voting. And I naturally just love people anyway. So, once I feel that everybody who opened their door considered me, just for the fact that I was out there. If I would have put a Republican after my name, I would have been voted without knocking on a single door, because 1,200 straight ticket Republicans.
Because you're a Republican.
But I had to really educate people that they can write my name in, because you could vote for 2. So even if you check the straight ticket box, you can still vote for me. And that was really, really confusing. Not write me in, but, vote for me.
Add you on the ballot, because there was only one Republican, and you can pick up to 2 names on it.
Right. So they would say, well, I would never vote for a Democrat. And I would say, well, then you better vote for me, because the Democrats going to get in if I don't get in. So
you actually use that. You would say, listen, if you don't want the Democrat in, you got to vote for me, because otherwise it's me or the Democrat for the second spot.
And I did the same thing to the Democrats when they said they would never vote for Republican.
Say, then vote for me for the second spot.
I use the hatred that they have for each other, which is really sad, I think. But
it works. It works. So you got to say to both of them, hey, listen, pick your main pick, and see, this is what I want to work on. I want to give you an actual built-in libertarian voter base, because what I heard from so many libertarians like you that have run in down-ballot races across the country is you didn't have much of a natural voter base. You might have a few dozen people at best in your area that are going to vote for you either because you're a libertarian or because they know you, or both. outside of that, you've got to get votes from Republicans and Democrats, or Republican-leaning independents and Democrat-leaning independents. But there isn't this big libertarian voter base. And so you got to do the hard work, and sometimes you got to do stuff like say, hey, listen, if you don't like the Republican, then vote for me after you vote for the Democrat. And if you don't like the Democrat, then vote for me after the Republican. So it's, you say it's sad, but until the party, develops the voter base and the grassroots organization to be able to, where you can just walk in and run as a libertarian and appeal to the libertarian voter base exclusively or primarily, that's the position you're in. And that's incidentally what I plan to be working on. But in the meantime, you're doing the hard work. So, and you may have already answered this. What would you say out of all those things was the most challenging thing? Was it trying to figure out who was who, or trying to get past the straight ticket voting, or what was that?
Oh, I think everything combined. The entire door-to-door campaign was pretty stressful.
Yeah.
I had to make aggressive goals for every day, and sometimes I wasn't meeting those goals and the clock was running out, and then I start just stuffing them instead. You start getting a little bit lazier towards the end of the day.
Right.
So definitely tried to end each day. Every day somebody would invite me in for tea, and they say you should only spend a few seconds with each person, look them in the eye. But if I knew somebody, if I knew somebody on that street, I tried to end the day on a positive note.
Oh, that's smart. End it with someone who's going to be kind to you so that you had a good experience leaving. That's smart. And something that I don't know if you did this too, but something that my last guest, Ben Bacchus, said is start outside of your area and work your way back home, because towards the end, you're not going to want to walk more than like a block away from your... Did you do that too, or did you just kind of randomly?
No, I totally did that, but I sort of had a strategy of that big subdivision way far away, which I basically lived in that subdivision for 2 weeks. And then once I got to my side of town, I could go home for lunch and take breaks and that type of thing.
Right.
Phone calls. But then I went to the village, because the village has the population. And then I worked my way out, because it was more and more rural as you work your way out. And I just got to a certain point, a dirt road off a dirt road with 40 acres,
Yeah, you're not going to walk down you're not going to walk down the street and try to, hit 6 houses in a day having walked 4 miles or whatever. Right. So if you had someone that was coming to you, and it's fascinating, because I never, even with my, again, background in real estate, with my family having a real estate company, I never made that connection that what you learn in real estate, especially for local, like citywide offices and countywide offices, it dovetails perfectly with what you need to do. That's amazing that you were able to do that. So if, keeping in mind, you have people that are watching this right now who are libertarians that are considering, running for office, if they came to you and you had to impart one single thing to them that you would want them to know, what would that one thing be?
I believe the one thing is pick a winnable race and go for it and run to win. I just believe that if you choose your race wisely and do the work, that you can do it. And I mean, I know I'm getting into some branches, but the community involvement is key, and keeping up with the body that you're going to be governing is important. Don't just show up at the first meeting, and expect to be respected by your fellow board members if you show no interest in the other meetings.
Right.
So
you were already getting engaged with like board of trustee meetings even before you ran?
Pretty much so. There have been several political issues. One of the things I did was they want to build a huge new jail, and they were going to put, this is the county-wide. I started a citizens group with 400 people. And now that Antrim County is involved in this election issue, I'm posting stuff about that. So that really gives me community involvement in the politics right off the bat. And I listen to all the county meetings. They're 8 hours long sometimes. So I'm really visible out in the government meetings. And we also have issues with the building department, because we're trying to rebuild downtown. Mancelona, and so we're at City Hall quite a bit, or Town Hall, whatever you want to call it.
That's good. That's good. So you were active and engaged. You didn't just show up one day and go, "Hey, I'm going to run for this office." I just decided that you were actively involved in the thing. So now that you have been elected, congratulations. And how does that work? Have you already been inaugurated or sworn in or?
Yes, I was sworn in just a few days later because the other trustee didn't want to show up at the meeting and they needed a quorum. So.
Well, hey, whatever it takes to get in. So now you're in. You've made quorum. Now that you've been elected, what are some of the main goals that you want to achieve? What is it you want to see in the Mancelona Township, Michigan Board of Trustees? I've been saying it correctly every time. What are some of the main goals that you have?
Well, the biggest goal to me is transparency, because as a former journalist, I would like to see, for example, I finally got these ordinances today. This is the list of the ordinances in our township. They're not on the website, and I had to ask for them, and they had to make copies of them. So I asked if I could do the work for them and get them put on the website, and it has to go to a board vote. So I'm going to tread lightly because each of these transparency issues is important, but I don't want to go there because I have a lot of other ones too. But, I want to maintain good relationships. They're all very nice people on the board.
Yeah.
But I bring a different point of view, and I'm the outsider because I haven't lived here my whole life like the others have. So I really have to, be nice and not be critical, but still offer my expertise and my ideas. But transparency is the big thing, because there's no real way to tell what's going on reading the minutes. You really have to let people know. I'm considering possibly expanding our Libertarian blog and writing about issues in the town, which I've already done to some degree, and that gets a lot of attention.
That's good. So the rules, the ordinances aren't somewhere where people can see them?
No, I didn't even know we had ordinances, and I had to ask. They're in a book, and I said, "Can't you send them to me in an email file?" And no, they did not have that capability. And they said no one ever asks. We're in a very libertarian area where people live far apart and mind their own business, and there's not a lot of laws. And, sometimes that makes a lot of junk. People, accumulate junk in their yard or whatever. But,
right.
So he said nobody ever asks for the laws. And I said, well, maybe we should get rid of the laws if nobody ever asks for them.
Exactly. If no one's asking for them, no one knows them, they're nowhere where they can be accessed. And there's no, is there a Mancelona Township Police, or is it just the county police or whatever?
The county sheriff, and then there's the village police.
Oh,
and I do govern part of the village, but they also have their own governing board. So really, no, the township does not.
Yeah, maybe they should just get rid of all those rules. If no one knows them or is enforcing them or is asking about it, maybe they can just maybe you can just take that book and throw it away. And when they ask about it, go, "I don't know where it is." And everyone just everyone just go, "Oh, okay. Well, if we don't know where it is, we'll just give up."
And one of the rules was the Marijuana Ordinance. And we have people now going before us because they changed the law in Michigan.
Yeah.
And both the village and the township are working on that. So, I think they're afraid that it's going to open up a can of worms to have these ordinances visible.
Right.
Because then people can see them and complain about them, but it just makes no sense to me to have ordinances and have to go in and ask for copies, that's just
better to just leave it somewhere and never do anything with it. It's like, we got these laws, but no one knows what they are. I'm not sure where they are. They're not enforced. Right. They're just over there. They're the rules. I don't know what are the rules. I have no idea. I don't know. That's hilarious. So basically, your whole thing is you're just trying to bring some light and transparency, in natural disinfectant of light into the local government there, while also you're a trustee, and you're looking to develop trust within the relationship of the people on the board there, so that when you want to do the bolder things, you have the relationship built in there to that they know that you're someone who is on the up and up, and that they can trust you and possibly, work with you on, initiatives that you have shared goals on things like that. So you're not going in to smash the wheel and dismantle the system. You're there to provide some transparency, a different way of thinking, and develop bonds within the people there, so that they know that you're someone that can be trusted, and then work on stuff in the future.
Yes, and that's what your last guest said that I really resonated with. Even if you are a radical libertarian, which I am not, you can't get elected and go in there and think you're going to immediately get rid of all the ordinances and get everybody to see your way. You have
instantly,
to be reasonable.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty pragmatic, in my philosophy, so it works well.
And the thing is this, as radical or as pragmatic as you are, you can't do much of anything unless you're there. And there's only so much you can do until there's more of you there. So if you're a libertarian, you want to demonstrate that libertarian governance works, you go and you do what you can and do it in a way that connects with the people there. And you might get other libertarians that are able to join you in that board. And now you actually have a position from which to do that. And you can have other, libertarians join the party based on knowing that, you're a reasonable person and you've done all positive things in the township government. And, you're the one who shredded the rule book no one used. And they can, maybe vote for libertarians elsewhere as well. It is an incremental thing. I'm about as radical as it gets in terms of policy. But I also recognize that until we are in positions of power where we can enact the entirety of our platform, we have to work incrementally. That doesn't mean that we can't be full-throated in our advocacy positions, but it does mean that when we're in positions of power, we have to recognize that we have to negotiate and get what we can get and build relationships as much as we can to be able to actually move forward and affect things. So that's awesome that what you're doing. And like I always like to say at the end of these shows, this is an example of what can be done when libertarians actually get elected into office. The things we talk about doing, you can do it when you're in office. You can actually start talking about the things you can do and what you can do and work on moving forward. That's a great place to be. I would much rather be talking with you I'd much rather be having a conversation with you about, what you're pragmatically and incrementally able to achieve than talk to someone on the outside who has no position of influence within that body saying all the radical stuff they'd like to do. It's great to have that conversation, but it also needs to be, it needs to be someone that can actually do it. So that's great that you did it. And congratulations, Donna Gundle-Krieg. It has been an honor to have you on this first night of Hanukkah episode that we're doing. Before I let you go, I just want to give you a chance to say whatever else you feel like you need to say, that maybe anything we didn't touch upon, anything else you wish to say in as much time as you need. Donna Gundle-Krieg, the floor is yours.
Well, I think the main thing is that what you are doing, trying to promote people to run for local office, is the key. And I love having to hire people, but it is harder to win those races. And I am going to be helping with the Michigan Libertarian newsletter statewide, writing a series of articles about, different ideas for people who are interested in running, because there's not really a lot out there for libertarians. Like, I've been to some real estate workshops if you want to run as a real estate candidate, and it's totally run by the Republicans, because that's who the real estate industry pretty much reports to. So
right.
I feel like a libertarian spin on how to run. I self-funded my own campaign just because I chose to. I think if it gets any bigger than my town, you definitely have to get some donations. But
of course, yeah.
So, but I just think that we need to start encouraging people to go for it, but not to just go for it part way, to start now thinking about the next election, going to the meetings. You might go to the first meeting and say, what was I thinking? But then you can go to the county next or whatever.
Right.
See, they might have room. So
see where your fit is. And like you said, start now. If you're going to run in next year, you're going to run in 2022, you're going to run in 2024. Start now. Make people know who you are. and make it be a positive thing that they know who you are, not that they Googled you and found, some terrible thing on Instagram or something, but like have them know who you are because you're an active and vibrant part of the community, and you're someone that they feel like they can trust, or at least give a chance to for something. That's a big part of this. And the reason I'm doing this show is to demystify the idea of libertarians winning. It is not this unachievable thing that we can not quite reach. It happens a lot. It happens a lot. And I'm not trivializing your win. Yours was a hard fought win. I'm saying it happens. It's not impossible. Folks like you are doing it every single election. And there's a common thread of how it's being done. It seems to be a combination of either picking races and doing the hard work across the board to be able to win, or there's this sort of subset of people that do this opposite thing where they find a race that no one else is running for and they put their name in and then don't say anything and they hope no one else runs. But again, these are different strategies to do the same thing, which is get into office and then be able to make influential decisions that positively affect the lives of everyone living under you in a form of libertarian governance. So it's awesome that you're doing this. Fantastic work. And I'm glad to hear that you're also going to be working on helping build the down ballot infrastructure that your state needs, and hopefully other states can emulate that. So Donna, again, thanks so much for coming on. It was an honor having you on.
Thank you very much. It was a pleasure.
Thank you. And folks, thank you again for tuning into this special Hanukkah episode, episode number 9 of Culture of Winning. I will be, I do this every time I forget to pull up the thing and say who my next guest is. My next guest is also from Michigan. My special guest on Friday, tomorrow at 8 p.m., my second night of Hanukkah / Shabbat episode of Culture of Winning is going to be Scotty Bowman up in Detroit, and I'll be or the Detroit area, and I'll be speaking with him. And then have a great weekend, and I will see you here again on Monday, the 14th at 8, where I will be talking with James Doyle, who was recently elected. So, folks, thanks again for tuning in. I'm Spike Cohen, and you are the power.